welcome to 2025. Okay, not quite yet, but...
Not yet.
Unfortunately, if you're a tennis fan, you're in a rush to get the year done. So, to rush to get the new year started. So, we're here, guys.
We're here. We did it. But technically, it is still 2024. It's the beginning of the new season, 2025, but it's December of 2024. So, yay, tennis.
Yep, because what's the solution to an already crammed calendar? Is start the previous year.
Exactly. Just seep into the previous year. Man, welcome everyone. We're back.
Tennis history tidbit. The WTA tour, actually, both tours used to do this. They used to technically finish the season in March because they actually used to have the end of year tournament in March.
Of the previous year?
Yes.
Tennis.
So it was like an April to March year, it didn't last very long. I think it was like a couple of seasons in the 80s. But yeah, they did do that.
Tennis. We love you so, but we're back. It's Nick, our tennis brain, and Anastasia. I just love the sport. It is season 2, episode 1 of Ground Passing. You might be thinking, guys, you didn't go anywhere. I just listened to you last week. We know. But, it's the new season. So we have to introduce it properly. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the new season. Really excited for what 2025 is going to bring. If you listen to our year-end review, you'll know all the things that we're excited for coming up in 2025. But we're here to talk to you about United Cup, which is the first, and you could, fact check me on this, but it's the first tournament of the new season, yes? There's no other tiny ITF little thing happening, is there?
I mean, I believe, correct
Probably.
me if well, it's not a tiny ITF event, because it starts, sort of this week, right? It starts, starts kind of like the last week of December, it's on, from the 27th of December.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Quick check, because you've got me going. It is the first by a few days because it starts on the 27th. But we do have some ATP and WTA events starting on the 3rd.
So there we go. So we're in it. we're here. We're ready to go. Full speed ahead. New season. And let's get into it. So United Cup. If you've been listening to us for a full season, you know what United Cup is. And thank you. Thank you for listening to us for a full season. But we talked about United Cup on episode 7 of Ground Pass and during our first season. And it is, I remember mentioning then that it's United Cup is if Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup had a baby. They would make United Cup. Is basically what it is. And the reason I say that is because men and women participate. So it's a mixed event. And instead of having a sort of doubles where it's 2 men, 2 women playing, it's mixed doubles. So we have mixed doubles to fill that doubles section of the tournament. But United Cup happens, it's hosted in Australia. It's hosted in 2 cities in Australia that are very far apart from each other.
Which it's fun when you're trying to mix time zones because, it has this amazing effect, and this is why I suppose this is what I love about United Cup is you could be wrapping up the matches from sort of the earlier city and be starting the ones in the later city.
Exactly. They are they're hosted in Sydney and Perth, which are in different time zones. It's always Australia already, for me who lives in the United States, is already a tricky time zone. So imagine watching United's Cup and then it's there are all these matches happening but there are two different time zones. So it can get a bit chaotic, but they happen in 2 different time zones that are across from each other in Australia, Perth and Sydney. But then they come together in Sydney for the last few matches. So they have the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals in Sydney. Where can you watch it? Where can you watch the United Cup in the UK?
Tennis Channel International.
Great. Tennis Channel here as well. Tennis Channel. It's the place to go watch the United Cup. And if you remember from last year, Tennis Channel has changed, at least in the United States. I actually don't know if this is the way it is in for Tennis Channel International, but in the US, there was always a separation between, live Tennis Channel that was on cable and then their streaming service. So they would hold back some high-level matches only for their live platform on cable. So you would have to have a subscription to their digital, but then also a cable subscription. Why? They made it simpler, guys. There is one subscription. It's $9.99 a month, $10 a month. It's the perfect time to probably start a new subscription, is at the beginning of a new season. And it's monthly. So you can choose kind of when in the year you want to have your Tennis Channel subscription live. And I think that's great. I think anything to sort of give fans the controls is really helpful, So yeah, that's how you can watch United Cup. What do we love about United Cup? I will start. I mean, we can totally go back and forth here, but last year, I think I mentioned I kind of have a new love for tennis team events, because tennis is an individual sport for the most part, unless you're playing doubles. And that's how we view the sport primarily. So it's really nice throwing in these events, Davis Cup, Billie Jean King Cup, of mixed team events where you can see, tennis players work as a team. I think a lot of them actually enjoy it. It seems like they have a lot of fun having sort of the backup of a team and having their teammates cheer them on. So they get to experience what that's like, what other sports probably get to, feel every single day. So I kind of enjoy this team kind of, because you just don't get to see these players interact this way ever.
No, especially since the mixing of the ATP and WTA doesn't happen a lot. And so you don't know kind of what friendships there are kind of between the tours. You get a little bit like Coco Gauff always talks about how she's talking to Ben Shelton and Francis Tiafoe.
Yeah.
And all kind of teasing each other. And you get a little bit, but it's the rare kind of real crossover moment in those teams and kind of working together. And I think also because you could get it with Davis Cup and Laver Cup, like sometimes those guys will be working together, but yeah, this is a very unique dynamic, which is always fun. And you got Iga Swiatek teasing Hubi Hurkacz last year, which was always always interesting.
That was a lot of fun. Oh, there's so many moments that now I'm thinking back of watching it last year and all the fun moments. Like, there's this dynamic of, which always happens with mixed doubles, is watching how male and female players interact on court on opposite sides of the net. I know a big topic of conversation last year was seeing how the male players on the other side of the net would, how Iga returned their serves quite successfully, pretty much all the time. It was actually so badass. Like, it was so cool to see that. And, you get these little moments where you don't really get it in competition, in tournament, whatever regular tournaments you get throughout the year. I think specifically United Cup, especially because you get a lot of singles players play mixed doubles, like players who would never usually play mixed doubles at a tournament. You get them playing doubles here because United Cup is based on country. So you're only playing within your country. So sometimes it's hard for them to be like two double specialists. It happens sometimes. I know like teams like Australia would probably have good mixed doubles partnerships that are double specialists. I know the US, the UK, they would probably have that. But just watching Iga and Hubi play last year was gold.
And that was I think they had good chemistry together. I think the thing is, of course, mixed doubles is actually fairly rare in tennis. Like you see it at the slams and here, and that's about it. So maybe some exhibition stuff as well. So the fact that we see it here, I think it's always an opportunity for different and new dynamics to come out. By the way, I've just realised there's going to be an even more complicated dynamic, and this is like dawned on Nick as we've been recording this. Australia and GB are in the same group. They're going to be playing each other, and you know who's playing for Australia and GB, right? Yeah. For those who don't know, Alex De Minaur is going to be Australia's leading man. Katie Boulter is going to be leading things out for Team GB from the women's side, along with Jack Draper. Alex and Katie are a couple. They are going to be shouting at each other from across the umpire's chair.
Cannot wait. Which is really funny because last year, a big fixture of the United Cup was, so depending on where the teams are playing, if either it's in Perth or Sydney, the teams usually all stay in the same kind of hotel. Like, by the way, this is just like a thing. Even during the US Open, there are like certain hotels that all the players just stay at during the tournament. It's kind of a normal thing. And I remember there was an interview with Alex De Minaur. I think it was after he won his match against Novak, but he was talking about how Katie Boulter and him, like they're just part of each other's teams. So, she's sort of considered Australian and like he'll like be in the British camp as well. Like they kind of flow back and forth depending on who's still in a tournament or not. And that's going to be so great. That's going to be one of the great things to look out for in this tournament. I mean, there were some really cool moments last year. Nicolas Jarry's grandfather was their captain of the team. He used to play tennis as well for Chile. And it was just a really sweet moment. I think there were they were doing a lot of sort of interview packages with both of them. And then, it's just such a cool moment. I love moments like that where you see, it's like a lot of times you see sort of mother, daughter, father, son, that sort of thing. But he was his grandfather. And, it was a really special moment watching him sort of cheer him on and encourage him and coach him. And that was a good moment from last year's tournament. And I think kind of like Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup, United Cup is a time to discover new players or kind of go through the breakthrough of maybe a player that you're probably never going to hear about for the rest of the year. They're just going to have a cool moment at an event like this, and you might not hear from them, you might, but it's always very heartwarming. And I love heartwarming sporting moments. Like they kind of tug at the heartstrings. One that comes to mind from last year was Stefanos Sakkarides. I think is how you say Sakkarides. Stefanos, he is a Greek player who played his very first ATP tour level event last year. He was 19 at the time, and he was playing for Greece, and he beat Thomas Mahak in a match. And he didn't have a rank. His ranking was in the thousands. You know what I mean? So it was such a big moment for him to win his very first ATP level match. And everyone was so excited and cheering for him. And that was a really good moment. Has he done much of anything since? I haven't really heard of him. He might be playing some ITF events, like the lower level ones. But I know he is coming back.
He's ranked 500.
So he probably is playing because he was
He's
in the
definitely
thousands.
playing because I could see him on the entry list.
But yeah, so it's nice to discover new players, or at least just participate in those moments because they're always fun.
Yeah, but on the other end of the scale, so many top players are also taking part in this tournament.
Yes.
Which, I love discovering these players. You're right, and I'm looking through, and I'm seeing some old favourites from the tour, and also some new players. I'm curious to see if they get played, but insane level of top 10 participation here. Just across the board from both tours, mainly the women, and including some women who haven't, I don't think, played United Cup before. They've been tempted away from other Australian tournaments they usually go play. And what I love about it is because there's clashes every single day between these players, and they're all, and like, this tournament is relatively long, guys. I mean, it's a 10-day tournament. It feels like an old school 1000 event, but like, because it's kind of constant clashing of top players, it feels like a Grand Slam, especially when you've got just matches all the time. And that's what another thing I really like about United Cup is it's got that slam feel, even though it's spread across 2 locations.
Yeah,
and you've got all these insanely talented players involved. I mean, just looking at who's going. I mean, you've got the US has got Taylor Fritz, Coco Gauff, and Danielle Collins. I mean, talk about overkill. Like, you basically, the US is looking very, very strong, and they are the top seeded team. Poland's got Hubi Hurkacz and Iga Swiatek. They're getting the band back together. Greece has got Tsitsipas and Sakkari. Italy's got Jasmine Paolini. Sinner is not playing. China's got Qinwen. GB doesn't have a top 10 player, but they've got Jack Draper, who everyone's obviously really excited about. Karolina Mukova's going to be playing for Czechia. Rybakina's playing for Kazakhstan. Zverev is back with defending champions Germany, hoping to repeat their success from last year. Casper Ruud is going to be carrying Norway as he usually does. So there's and that's just like the top players, in addition to like names you'll frequently see in the mix for tough tournaments. So lots of really, really good names to kind of go in there, and that's actually feel free to throw in any I may have missed.
No, I mean, that's like a really great group. I mean, like Donna Vekic is playing, Alex De Minaur, like we mentioned before, he's playing as well. This is the time just before a Grand Slam where, especially for the top players, we're trying to see where they're at. And here's the thing, they haven't played in a while. They've had an off season, so this is them coming in. I think I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, one of the things I'm looking forward to in 2025 is this sort of new super coach thing that's happening in tennis. There have been so many announcements of coaching partnerships. Hello, Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic. We'll be waiting for you. I don't think they're playing. Novak isn't playing this year, but
no, he's not. No, Serbia's not in it.
Yeah, so we will have to wait on that. But Hubi Hurkacz just announced Ivan Lendl is joining his team, which I'm just like,
not only Ivan Lendl, Nicholas Massou.
What?
Like, he's got 2. Like, Hurkacz wasn't content with that. He's gone for 2 coaches. Because for those of you who don't know, because we are like, Lendl's not coached anyone since we started the podcast. I think he's not coached anyone since Zverev before, and that was before COVID.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard of him, Ivan Lendl is a Czech-born player, although he is now a US national. He won 8 Grand Slams in the 90s, up to 1990. One of the best players like ever definitely of his generation. Probably pioneered a lot of like fitness that we come to expect in the modern game. And then he successfully coached Andy Murray twice. Both times he coached Andy Murray. Murray was winning Grand Slams. Tried it with Alexander Zverev. That didn't go as well. Nicolas Massou is a Chilean player who his claim to fame is he kind of won Olympic gold out of nowhere for Chile in 2004 in what was a very bizarre year at the Olympics, where like Roger Federer was the heavy favourite and he went out, and Nadal and Djokovic and Murray weren't a thing yet, and then the final ended up being Nicolas Massou against Marty Fish, and he won the gold medal, and then he ended up becoming Dominic Thiem's coach, and again they had a really, really good relationship. He coached Dominic Thiem to starting to compete with the likes of Djokovic and Nadal and winning the US Open before Dominic sadly got injured and then just wasn't himself again and is now recently retired. So both guys were available. Hubi Hurkacz wants to coach. He decided to get both of them.
He was like, why settle with one super coach when you can have 2? And I keep saying the thing super coach. I think that was a thing when I first became a fan. That was a thing kind of with Andy Murray hiring. I think he hired even Lendl. He hired Amelie Mauresmo. Like that was the kind of like super coach generation, even with Novak hiring Goran Ivanisevic. You know, these are all sort of former players who were super successful while they were playing, and they're now coaching current players. So this is the super coach. And I just feel it's coming back. We're in the era of the sort of big name coach, and there are a lot of them in this new season that I'm excited to see where they can take their players. Like, can they make big changes with their players and take them to the next level? So excited to see how that goes. This will be the first time we've seen Hubi with his new team. Excited to people like Maria Sakkari, who I actually don't remember the last time I saw her play. I know I didn't see her at the US Open. She was out early there as well. She had a really, really rough 2024. I know she had kind of changed coaches during Indian Wells last year, and it didn't quite work out. So she's one that I'm just curious because, and maybe this is unfair, but I don't know, but she looks like she should be a top player. Like, if anyone's seen Maria Sakkari, you're like, how is she not number one? Like, look at her, you know? But she just has never, I mean, and she's been in the top 10 before, but she just hasn't made those big jumps that I think were expected. And I want to see how she comes into this new season. And yeah, so there's just a lot of storylines coming into a new season that the United Cup gives us an insight to right away, because all of these players are playing each other. It's like, this doesn't happen in tennis usually, but it happens in the United Cup. We know who's playing who now. By the way, big secret, if you've got this far, we're recording this episode November 30th, and we already have the matchups of players. And by the way, they were out way earlier than November 30th. This is
unheard of in tennis. Like, other tennis tournament can you plan your schedule around in the same way? I mean, obviously there's room for us to be let down and people to pull out, but it looks fairly set.
And that is true. So full disclosure, definitely this is a list that was released weeks ago. Something could happen in the off season that means they don't play or something like that. So that's, totally out there. But like you said, it doesn't happen in tennis. You can totally plan your whole schedule around it. So, as you're listening to this, you're still going to be able to buy tickets to the United Cup. And so if you're in Perth, if you're in Sydney, tickets are still available. You can definitely probably get ground passes to just walk on the day. And you're going to know who you're going to get for the first 6 days of the tournament. So I put together a list, and, Nick will totally jump in when he wants, of some matches that, barring health and everything goes okay, I am looking forward to so much. I'm counting down the clock to some of these matches, but here we go. So we know the schedule for the first 6 days and who's playing when. I will put the link in the description of this podcast so you can check it out, especially if you are planning to go to United Cup to go watch some tennis. You know who you're going to get. Day 1, Qinwen Zheng and Beatrice Haddad-Maia. Do you know why I'm interested in this one, Nick? You probably do.
I believe it's a rematch from a really deep cut tournament from 2023.
Yes. This is a deep cut, guys. Deep cut. It's a tournament that doesn't exist anymore. They got rid of it, but it was one of my favorite matches of 2023. The match that they had at the final of the Elite Cup, which it was an interesting concept. So it doesn't exist anymore, but the Elite Cup was basically the next 8. So, or at least because I don't know how they dealt with alternates, and maybe you can educate me on that. But so for the WTA finals, you obviously take the top 8, and there are a couple of alternates that go over with them. The next 8 or 10
it was 12, I think.
Yeah, the next 12, then they would go participate at this other tournament called the Elite Cup. And it happened for a few years, but last year was their last year of doing it. It was, I don't know, it was an interesting tournament. I guess it could have been felt like you're like, this is the consolation prize for getting into the top 20, I guess. But no, the final between Qinwen Zheng and Beatrice Haddad Maia that year was the match. It was such a good match, and Qinwen lost, and it was close, and it was fun. So I'm excited for that rematch. So I totally want to see that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be exciting. Yeah, I think that's going to be that is the highlight match of day one for me. Although I will say, for those who may be interested in how Elena Rybakina is, she will kind of be the opening match of the United Cup for Kazakhstan, as they will be she'll be playing against Spain, or they'll be playing against Spain, and so she'll be taking on Jessica Puzesh Monero, and I think this is going to be the tournament to see that's going to be a moment to see how she's kind of hitting the ground to start the 2025 season, because I think that she, along with her new super coach Goran Ivanisevic, are going to be handling the new season really, and how they're going to be looking.
Yeah. For day two, I kind of have a similar thing with Maria Sakkari. Is I just want to see how she's doing. She just happens to also be playing Jessica Puzesh Monero.
Jessica Puzesh Monero is obviously the player you just wheel out to test someone who's maybe a bit rusty.
We love you, Jessica. You really did great last season. She had her moments definitely last season, but yeah, we're just going to be paying attention to your opponent, which will actually be very interesting if she could beat any of them. You know what I mean? Like that would be a good start for her for her season. Day three, Coco Gauff and Layla.
Day three, Anastasia.
Yes,
I noticed you've casually skipped over an entire tie, which I've just looked at it and gone, oh, that's just going to be blockbuster match after blockbuster match.
Which one?
Canada and Croatia. Leila Fernandez is playing Donna Vekic, and then Felix Auger-Aliassime is playing Borna Coric. That's the morning session in Perth. The Greece-Spain one's the evening session in Perth. But yeah, Felix obviously is a big name player. He's got to the US Open so far. Coric has won Cincinnati a couple of years ago, and you got Olympic silver medalist Donna Vekic against former US Open finalist Leila Fernandez, who is so much fun to watch. I think I said that before. So yeah, that's going to say the entire of Canada versus Croatia, if you're awake for it, is well worth watching.
Yeah.
Also,
and by the way, if you look at the schedule and you see all the doubles and they're all like TBD, it's because they're just those they pick on the day.
They get picked on the day.
But some of those, again, like we said, especially for teams that don't have double specialists, you can get some really interesting singles players playing together. And sometimes they're fun to watch. Again, Iga and Hubi last year, it was gold. They should do it all the time, which they're probably going to do it this year as well.
And we'll get back to them. One last point on day two is we're also going to be seeing the return of another old favourite, Belinda Bencic, who is coming back from maternity leave, and actually she's playing, I believe she's taking a wild card as an ITF, and that's like this week or next week.
Yeah.
As we're recording it. So she's starting to phase herself back in anyway. And I think she's played Billie Jean King Cup as well in like the lower levels. So she is kind of back on tour, but this is like her big stage return. Belinda Bencic won Olympic gold at the Tokyo Olympics, for those who don't know. But yeah, that's another name I just wanted to throw out as look who's back.
Again. Did we say we love the United Cup? I love the United Cup. There's some really great storylines that can come out of this tournament. Day three, what I was going to say is Coco Gauff and Leila Fernandez. I mean, I don't know. That to me is just sit me in front of the television. I'll watch that any day, anytime, anywhere, any tournament. That to me sounds like a really fun matchup. And then Thomas Mahak, who had a really great season, he's our short shorts king, is going to be playing Casper Ruud as well. Again, I don't know, great matchups. Like this is really great. And then day four, Maria Sakkari and Elena Rybakina. I mean,
that's going to be very, very interesting. Again, two players who are going to want to have a bit of a reset going into
a new season. Yeah.
Sakkari's going to want to test her mettle. I think she's going to be a good test for Rybakina's mettle. Quickly go back to day three, you do realise that also Felix is playing Taylor Fritz, right? Like it's kind of the battle of the nice guys with big serves happening.
I love that. That is so the nice guys with the big serves. I like that a lot.
Day 4, also like for our British listeners, that's when the Brits are getting started. So that's December the 30th, which is also when all the other tournaments are starting.
Yeah.
And that's where you get Katie Boulter and Jack Draper back in action. You've also got Iga Hubi kicking off against Norway. Hubi Hurkacz will be playing Casper Ruud again in a battle of not nice guys with big serves, but
the nice guys.
Yeah, a couple more nice guys. Yeah, taking them on. So yeah, that's when you've got some fun players. Day 5 is a reduced schedule because they're not playing any matches in the evening due to it being New Year's Eve. But do you want to talk about day 5?
So day 5, there are definitely some great matches happening. Day 5, the US are playing in Croatia. So we have Fritz and Bonatoric and Coco Gauff and Donna Vekic. Mm-hmm. Rematch of the Olympics.
Yes,
that
Vekic
would
beat
be
Gauff, didn't she?
Yeah, that will be really, really interesting. But for some reason, I'm more interested in the doubles match that we don't know who's playing yet against Italy and France. I'm like, what if they put Jasmine with Fabio Caboli? Like, how are they going to do as a mixed doubles team is something I just want to see. So for me, I mean, I can't believe I missed the Coco Gauff Donna Vekic, because actually that's going to be my number 1 match because it's a rematch and Donna Vekic won it at the Olympics. But close second is going to be whatever mixed doubles match happens between Italy and France.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, Pauli, very accomplished doubles player. And Irani is going as well, by the way. So they could just sub Paulini out and put Irani in. They've got Vavasori, who is number 6 in the doubles rankings as well, Italy. So it might end up being Irani and Vavasori taking on whoever the French have got, I think.
I saw them both play at the US Open. They played mixed doubles together at the US Open. Yeah. So you're right. They probably could do that.
Vavasori, Irani, and then the French have got a few more kind of options. Their doubles depth isn't great, but the French have got Eduardo Roger Vasselin, who's a top 20 doubles player and very accomplished doubles player throughout his career.
Yeah.
So it'll be pairing him with whoever.
That could be one of the ties where interesting, like it could go down to the doubles to see who wins that.
Well, very likely, because Caboli Humbert, that's going to be a real battle because they're both real showmen, especially Caboli. Caboli always gets himself involved in epics. And then Paulini and Parry. I mean, I love watching Diane Parry play. Like, she's just so unorthodox for a women's tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
But also Paulini is just brilliant anyway. So, yeah, that one could well go down to the doubles, and Humbert and Paulini will be the favourites.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. And day 6.
New Year's Day. Yep. So
New Year's Day.
I think, again, noticing the schedule, they've only got a Sydney schedule here, interestingly.
Well, the schedule I have, there are only 2 matches on day 6. I mean, there's probably going to be more. But
I know why.
Do you know why?
Yeah, I'm looking at the main schedule.
Okay.
Sydney, they're rounding off all the remaining group matches from Group B and Group F with Poland and Czechia and GB versus Australia, which are like 2 of the most mouth-watering ties. Poland and Czechia is happening in the morning session. GB versus Australia is the night session. But in Perth, the reason why we don't have to schedule it is because they're going to be starting the quarterfinals.
Yes. So it's going to be TBD for them who will be playing there. But the 2 matches that I'm going to be glued to, I mean, all of them, I think, but no, it's these 2. Iga Swiatek versus Karolina Muchova.
Yes, please.
Alex De Minaur versus Jack Draper.
Yes, please.
Done. That's what we'll be watching. Join us.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, they're really, really good. You know who else? What other match is happening? Hubi Hurkacz against Thomas Mahak.
Oh,
Thomas Mahach. Yeah,
another good one. I mean, Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Again, I'm so interested to see, because I think Hubi definitely ended his season with injury. So it will be really interesting to see him come through here. Even Lendl, I mean, come on. He couldn't have one. He picked two.
Yeah. I mean,
So, yeah.
I'm just having a look at sort of, because obviously that one's going to be a lot of fun. So that Poland to Czechia tie is 10:30 a.m. Sydney time, and this is one of the things we're going to have to think about, because I know we've got a few listeners in Australia, so you're very lucky. So if we were looking forward to like the United Cup, like, you know, this is the 31st of December, it's 6:32 in the evening, so it's more or less exactly a month from when we're recording. That match would start in 5 hours. Hurkacz against Mahac, which for you is like a nice evening event, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And this is totally an aside, but if any of our listeners want to help me out, I'm sure there must be an app for this already. And I want an app, not a website. I know I'm being picky, but I would like an app, not a website, that I could put on my phone. That every time I type in the time in some country, so for example, I type in the time in Sydney, you just need to tell me what time it is in New York. Or I type in the time in New York, and you need to tell me what time it is in Sydney, Australia, without going back and forth. Because I know my Clocks app can do it. I know it can, but not the way I want it to do. I just want to be able to type in the time and then just have that translated, and all the maths is already done, if possible. So if you're listening to this, you have an app for me, please leave us a rating, send us an email, put it in the comments, one of those, because I'm going to need some help in 2025. What is time? 2024 was a lot. I was doing a lot of math, and I don't want to do it anymore, but that's an aside. Back to the tennis.
Yeah, we have that. So we know the day 6 schedule. The quarterfinals in Perth, as we said, like we don't know that yet because we need to wait for the outcomes of the groups. But it would be the winner of the group. The morning match would be the winner of Group C, which is Kazakhstan, Spain, and Greece, against the winner of Group E, which is Germany, Brazil, and China. So there could be some really, really interesting potential there. I mean, if you just go off ranking, you could get Elena Rybakina against Zheng Qinwen in the women's.
Yeah.
And winner of Group A will be the best runner-up, because there's 6 groups. So they'll be like, they've got to do best runners-up from the 3 in that location. That will then complete everything that's happening in Perth. And then everyone in Perth is going to be flying over to Sydney whilst they do their quarterfinals, which is spread over 2 days. So day 7 and day 8 will be the last 2 quarterfinals of the United Cup. It'll start to get a little bit less busy, and then semi-finals will be on the 4th of January, and the final will be on Sunday, the 5th of January, and then everyone can get some sleep.
Yes.
In theory, anyway. That's as well as obviously following all the tournaments that are happening in Brisbane, Auckland, and Hong Kong.
Yes.
That's happening at the same time.
That are all happening at the same time. It's going to be a bumper start to the year. Like, it'll start slow, but the moment we get into January, it's just going to be like back to back to back. And then before you know it, it's the Australian Open. And then you're like, how did we get here? But we will cross that bridge when we get there. Hope everyone enjoys the United Cup. I really enjoyed it last year. So I think I'm really looking forward to it this year. And yeah, it's going to be like,
well, I now know what my New Year's plans are going to be, because I've realised that Hubi Hurkacz versus Mahac starts at 11:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve.
Like, what a better way to ring in the new year. That's pretty much similar what I'm going to do. If anyone knows how New Year's goes in New York, you want to be inside. You don't want to be anywhere. You don't want to be outside. But anyway, that was our United Cup episode. Just a little thing before we wrap this episode up. It is the beginning of a new season. It's the beginning of a year. And I always think it's nice to go into the new year with maybe some new goals or new maybe habits that you want to bring. And while I was researching a few episodes, I came across an article about the ATP Carbon Tracker, which helps ATP players. This was something they launched in the 2023 season, helps ATP players track their emissions. And, they kind of made an app for it to help players track and also try and offset their emissions. Because as we know, tennis players, they travel the world on a plane for the most part. And it might be tough. Like it's a very big, they have a big impact on the environment. I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole of tennis balls. Where do tennis balls go after they're done? Water bottles. Where do water bottles go after they're done? So coming across this article just made me want to talk about it a little bit. They had a list of the top, they kind of did a ranking of the top 10 players of 2023. I think the 2024 one hasn't come out yet, but they did a top 10 of 2023 players who did the best to offset their carbon emissions. Mackenzie McDonald was number 1. Jan-Lennard Struff was number 10. I'll put a link in the description of this episode with the full list. Of course, Dominic Thiem was on the list. He's always someone who we know is big on trying to be more responsible to our planet and think about waste in a responsible way. So I kind of want to bring this up because it is the beginning of the season. And maybe our listeners can kind of take something from that to try and maybe offset their, impact on the environment if they want to. Using reusable water bottles has always been a thing, even though that's now like a craze. Everyone has a reusable water bottle, but the point is just getting one and using just that one. Don't get 40. What are the popular ones now that everyone on TikTok wants to get? They're like the ones with multiple colors. I don't know.
I'm not on TikTok. I don't know. I think I've seen what you're talking about. You know what we should do, Anastasia? Ground pass water bottles.
Stay tuned. But yes, I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's the responsible thing to do. And we're starting a new year and we might as well start thinking responsibly about our planet. If you haven't already, I think it's definitely something to read up on and see what little you can do. I know it's sort of like a big thing. For example, I was thinking last year, I went to the most tournaments I've ever gone to, and I flew to all of them. This is an impact that we have. But I think whatever, even the littlest thing you can do personally, I think will be very helpful to the situation. Doesn't have to be big, just consistent.
And I think that's really important to think about. I think tennis is such a huge sport, such an impact, and everyone who goes, including the fans, have an impact on tennis's carbon footprint. We've got a part to play in stopping things going too crazy because we're all experiencing that at the minute.
Yes.
And other thing you can be consistent with is keeping up with us as well. As this is probably the most consistent we've ever been as Ground Pass and releasing regular episodes, probably because we've pre-recorded everything. But we will be. We're looking forward to sharing the 2025 season, a new season for us. Season 2 will be even better than season 1. They usually are. It's when they get to about season 7 or 8 that things start to get tired and probably should start cancelling the show at some point. But we're not quite there yet. We're here and we're here to stay. And we're going to have a lot of fun. In Australia, following Australia, even if it may not involve much sleep. Please follow us for all kinds of updates on our social media, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. We will be speaking to you lots more in 2025. Looking forward to it.